Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, Executive Editor at ClassicsToday.com, here to talk to you about Otto Klemperer, the legendary Amsterdam concerts, 1947 to 1961, on the Archiphon or Archiphon, whatever it's called, label. Oh, I have so many problems with this set. So many problems with this set. But let's start at the beginning. First, there is the fabulous quotation from the composer's daughter, Lotte. Lotte Klemperer writes, "My father was not really a studio conductor." Bullshit, Lotte. You're full of crap. He made a magnificent legacy of studio recordings and seemed to have very little problem operating in the studio. Our ears give lie to that absurd statement. Next, for him, there was no such thing as a definitive interpretation. Thank you. There isn't one for anybody. Somehow this belated record fame is a mistake. All the people who went out and supported her father and his career and the label that invested a fortune in it were being duped. Doesn't that make you feel good? Isn't that a wonderful tribute to her dad's legacy? I hate the children of artists. They are vile parasites who should be exterminated like cockroaches and... Okay. Artistically, for me, all live performances, with all their blemishes, audience noises, and technical shortcomings, are 100 times more interesting and valuable, for they keep alive what I believe is the real okay. Otto Klemperer. Oh, Jesus, spare us from this nonsense. I just don't understand people like her. I really don't. But it's not her call. It's not her call at all. Makes no difference what she thinks. She has no idea what she's talking about just because she happens to be, an accident of birth. It's just outrageous. Her brother, Werner, who I happen to know fairly well, was extremely supportive of his father's recorded legacy and a very zealous guardian of it. I remember when EMI released one of their first Klemperer editions, back in the days when they were single discs, and they put out the Beethoven Pastoral Symphony with the Egmont music missing, and there was Egmont on it, and one of the movements was missing from the Egmont music that he recorded. And I ran into him at Tower Records, and we were talking about it, and I said to him, "You realize that, there's something missing from here?" And he got furious. And he went after EMI, and I suppose they fixed it, because soon thereafter everything was hunky-dory. He cared quite a bit about what those recordings represented. So I'm not saying he was right and Lotte was wrong, or Lotte was right and Werner was wrong. What I'm saying is it doesn't matter. Their opinions are irrelevant, completely irrelevant, and it's particularly irrelevant when it comes to this stuff. Now, this is a beautifully put together set. I have to say, it really is. I mean, it's in a nice sturdy box, and you get a beautiful hardcover book. I mean, they spared no expense to do this correctly. It's got pictures, it's got notes on all the concerts. It's really a lovely production. It really is. It happens to be a deceptive production because it claims that these 1947 to 1961 live recordings are somehow 24 hybrid super audio CD recordings, which of course they're not. They're all mono air checks or someone hiding in the audience with a cassette player under their sleeve, or I don't know how they got the sources or where they came from, but they are all grotty sounding historical recordings. They're not terrible. They're not unlistenable. Not by any stretch of the imagination. They're not just like static filled, things, but they're extremely limited in dynamic range. And the fact of the matter is you can 24-bit SACD your way to whatever you want to do. But something that sounds like crap is going to sound like remastered crap, no matter what you do with it. And I don't care what your name is, and I don't care who you claim to be, or how you gimmick up the sound. If you start with bad sound, you get bad sound. You just get different varieties of bad sound. So this consists of different varieties of bad sound. And don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. It's also extremely expensive. I mean, these are full price discs. There are 16 of them. And you wind up spending, I don't know, $300 or close to it or around there. It's no bargain. None at all. And let's be honest with ourselves. Klemperer fans of this conductor, don't care. Fans of historical recordings sometimes don't care. They just want a million recordings of the same things with the same guy. I'm not one of those people. And I'm not a critic for those people because they don't need me. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I'm all for people who know what they want and don't care what I have to say. Don't watch me. Go away and do what you want. That's terrific. Absolutely terrific. But the fact of the matter is this consists of lots of duplicated repertoire, stuff that he recorded in the studio. It overlaps by about 10 years, his EMI studio recordings. So the differences in interpretation from his live stuff and his studio stuff are not all that great. And they demonstrate the opposite of what Otto Klemperer said, which was that her father wasn't really a studio musician. The truth is the interpretations are virtually identical in many, many cases. And where they aren't, they don't necessarily favor the live versions at all. The live versions may be different, and people may prefer them, therefore they like them better, but, it's a question of apples and oranges. You may like the blemishes, the live sound, the compressed dynamic range, the mistakes, the sloppiness. All of that may just be, icing on the cake for you. It isn't for me. I would rather have no audience noise. I would rather have correct ensemble. I would rather have a certain level of care evident in the preparation and performance. And of course, I want a sound of spontaneity. I want all those things. I mean, you don't have to give up one to get the other. And the fact of the matter is that with Klemperer, you didn't have to. He never sounded studio bound. He sounded slower as he got older, but he wasn't one of those inhibited studio musicians. You'd have to be crazy to think something like that. So anyway, let us talk about what's on here. And that's all we need to do, because those of you who think it's important will get it anyway, and I just think it's a ripoff. However beautifully it's done, however nicely it's done, I don't think it tells us anything particularly meaningful about Klemperer, and I don't think it's necessary for anybody who has the Klemperer studio recordings. And it's that simple. I'm telling you straight out. But let's see what's on here. Lotte, by the way, died in 2003, and this is just coming out now. So wherever her quotations came from and whatever she was talking about, it wasn't this stuff. It's also worth pointing out that her wonderfully generic comments are useful, but not terribly useful when dealing with specific performances. Oh, this makes me nuts. All right, disc 1 from 1947 for December. You get the Hebrides, you get the Songs of a Wayfarer with Hermann Shea, and you get, or Shai, however you pronounce it, and you get Bruckner's Fourth. No horses with Klemperer's Bruckner. His Bruckner was always very good. It's quite similar to his other Bruckner. Fine. Okay. Let's see what else we get. Let's see. From 1949 to 1951, Beethoven's Eighth, Mozart's 25th Symphony, and the Mozart Violin Concerto No. 5 with Jan Bresser, violin. I mean, who cares? Let's see. You get the Janacek Sinfonietta. Oh, this is from 51. It's good having Klemperer's Janacek. That I enjoyed listening to because it's a very massive but not too slow performance, but extremely grand. And it's fun to hear. Yeah, it's just a little messy. The passages in 13/8 time don't come off perhaps as well as they need to, but yes, it's okay. The Bartók Viola Concerto with William Primrose. The Hans Henkemann's Concerto for Flute and Orchestra with Herbert Barwasser. And Faye's Nights in the Gardens of Spain with Willem Andriessen piano. An extremely fast and totally unidiomatic performance of that, which I found rather interesting for its perversity. So there you go. That's the kind of stuff you find in these things. Things that are interesting for their perversity and unidiomatic flavor. maybe you want that. I mean, I can't tell you no. I heard it, so you may find it interesting. Okay, Beethoven's A Perfido with Gray Bruvenstein and the Seventh Symphony. Faster than it later got, which is nice, but not his mono one so much. It's not so different. And then Mozart, Masonic Funeral Music, Mahler's Kindertotenlieder with Kathleen Ferrier. We've already discussed that. And let's see. Oh, the Mahler 2. The very fast, zippy Mahler 2. Also with Kathleen Ferrier and Joe Vincent. Some people think that the performance is a revelation. I think it's just a good, fast, urgent, exciting, sloppy Mahler 2. And quite frankly, Mahler 2 in bad sound is just a waste of time. Of all the composers who really need great sound, isn't Mahler one of those? You can hear tempos, you can hear, come on. All right, fine. So now we're up to July 1955, Beethoven Pastoral Symphony. Let's see, Schoenberg's Verklärte Nacht, we're still in 1955, and Hindemith's Nobile Visione Suite, which of course Klemperer recorded quite well. The Verklärte Nacht is a normal performance at a normal tempo. It's 28 minutes long. How many Verklärte Nachts does anybody need? And again, why would you want to hear it and not great sound? Verklärte Nacht? No. It sounds like sludge anyway. You really want to have good sound to somewhat de-sludgify it, I think. That's me. Mendelssohn, Midsummer Night's Dream Music, lovely performance. He always did it really well. His studio recording is fantastic too. And let's see, that's that. Beethoven, Eroica. Oh, the Eroica at his usual granitic Eroica speeds. It's very well done, and I always love the fact that he didn't really dawdle over the funeral march, ridiculously in any case. So it's a fine performance. But then again, his studio recording is one of the best, both of them, however many there are. Then Mozart's Eine kleine Nachtmusik, and then we're still in 1955. Mahler 4 with Maria Stadter. That's okay. It's exactly the same, basically, tempo-wise as his studio recording with Elizabeth Schwarzkopf, which sounds a billion times better. Mozart's Es Exultate Jubilate. And now we have a Beethoven cycle, another Beethoven cycle. And I'm just going to, it's a Klemperer Beethoven cycle. If you want to hear it with this orchestra, you could hear this orchestra do a wonderful Beethoven cycle with Eugen Joachim and luscious stereo from a few years later, 5 or 6 years later. And I see no reason to make an issue of getting them. We've already got 6, 7, and 8 that he's already done, and you get them again, and they're just the same as they were last time. And that's the thing, folks. You keep wanting to hear the same things done by the same guy over and over again. We've been through it a million times. The Furtwängler people like it. The Toscanini people like it. I detest artist cults. And I don't care who the artist is. I don't think there is any reason to hear the same artist play the same piece over and over and over and over again when you can hear different artists play the same piece over and over and over and over again. You will always get more out of the music. It depends what you're listening for. If you're listening for Klemperer and you want to hear the difference in measure 62 between a slightly more strongly balanced oboe and perhaps the viola rhythm rendered with a little more clarity, then go get every Klemperer recording that you can get your hands on. Knock yourself out. But if you want to hear Beethoven as opposed to Klemperer or anyone else, any other person, if you want to hear the composer and the potentiality inherent in the music, then you've got to hear different interpretations by different people at different times. Not the same person doing the same music over and over and over. And that's my position, and I'm sticking to it. I really am. So we're done with the Beethoven cycle. We don't care. Then we get Mozart 29. Now we're up to 656. And the 22nd Piano Concerto with Annie Fisher. That's nice to have if you're an Annie Fisher person. The Mozart Oboe Concerto, which is boring because it's a boring work. The Jupiter Symphony, which is very Jupiter-like. The Bach Orchestral Suite No. 2. And the Wedding Cantata with Elizabeth Schwarzkopf. Now we're already up to 1957. So we're into Klemperer 56, 57, 55. This is his vintage EMI period with the Philharmonia. So you're going to hear even less difference between these performances and his studio recordings. And you really do. There's very little difference other than the awful sound or the limited sound. If it's not awful, you can describe it however you want. And we have Mozart's Chioma Scordi Dictée with Elizabeth Schwarzkopf and Maria Curcio, piano. That's such an incredible concert aria, though. I don't care about Schwarzkopf, but wow, what an aria that is. It's Mozart's greatest concert aria with solo piano obbligato. It's just amazing, a wonderful work. Then we have, from 1957, Brahms, the Haydn Variations, Till Eulenspiegel's Merry Pranks, and bonus tracks, first official release, the Don Giovanni Overture and the Mendelssohn Violin Concerto with Johanna Marzi. These are with the Residentia Orchestra, Det Haag, whatever that thing's called. It's not from the Concertgebouw, and, they're okay. Oh, we get the Hebrides again. It's a little slower now. It's 10 minutes as opposed to 9 minutes and 50 seconds. I mean, it makes all the difference in the world. The Stravinsky Symphony in 3 movements. This is a little better than the one he did studio-wise, which was very late in his career, and it was very clunky and very slow. This one is better. Let's just put it that way. But no one, I think, is going out to spend multiple hundreds of dollars to hear Klemperer conduct Stravinsky's Symphony in 3 movements in bad sound at slightly quicker tempos than he did previously. Maybe I'm wrong. Schubert's Symphony No. 4. Well, that's nice because he didn't do that every 10 minutes. And the Meistersinger Overture by Wagner. And we get the Beethoven Missa Solemnis from, I don't know, when is this? This is from 57 also. I mean, Klemperer did a great Missa Solemnis, but his recording is a great Missa Solemnis. And I'll stick with the studio recording. It's the only live recording of the Missa I've heard that really just blows my socks off is the live Zell, not surprisingly. Of course, Bernstein's Concertgebouw one is great too. And it's the Concertgebouw. And if you want the Concertgebouw much, much better sound, get Bernstein on Deutsche Grammophon. And then we have Gluck, the Chaconne from Orpheus and Eurydice, Cice, Klemperer's own Symphony No. 1. Well, 18 minutes of Klemperer playing his own music, which isn't very good, by the way. Maybe enticing for some of you who have lots and lots of money to burn. And then we have Bruckner, Symphony No. 6, which sounds very much like his studio one, only not as good. And that is the entire Klemperer Concertgebouw legacy on Archiphon. I think that you can spend your money better elsewhere. I truly, truly, truly do. Are these bad? No. Are they interesting and musical? Yeah, sure they are. Are they better than his studio recordings? Better? No. Sometimes different? A little bit. Are they SACDs? Who are they kidding? So that's my take on it, folks. I hope I haven't disappointed too many of you, but I'm very practical about these things. And I really, really believe that if I did not have a professional obligation to hear these things and report to you, I would never waste my money on it. Never in a million years. In fact, I wasn't going to until a bunch of you started mentioning it and saying, well, let's finally close by being very, very honest with each other. What do you expect? What do you really expect? I just want to say categorically, as the dawn of the new year approaches, and Happy New Year to everybody, in case you're watching this in future centuries, we are now recording on New Year's Eve 2022. So tomorrow will be January 1st, 2022. And I want to say, first of all, Happy New Year to all of you. Thank you all for joining me on this amazing voyage. But what I really want to say is stop looking for the Holy Grail. It's not out there. It's not out there. There are buried in the archives splendid musical performances. But what are you really after, folks? That unbelievable, special, cosmological event that's going to be transformative in your musical existence? It's not out there. The best thing is not always on the other side of the fence or just out of sight or being withheld from you by the mendacity of the performing arts, industrial military complex. None of that's true. There's tons and tons and tons of great, great, great stuff, as we've already shown and we've already been discussing, and there's tons more to come. So much more. So nobody needs to have this. And you don't have to go feel that you're missing anything. You're not. You're just missing more of the same stuff by the same people. That's all it is. So keep on listening, folks. Thanks for joining me. Take care.